There are many different forms and ways we can communicate with each other electronically. There's the telephone, the cell phone, the computer, the laptop, FaceTime, real-time Skype. And all these different forms of communication are meant to bring us together. That's what communication does. But unfortunately, with all the different forms of communication, it seems like a society we're being pulled apart from one another. And I believe there's a reason for it. Because I don't think it's the device we use to communicate that's the problem. I think how we communicate, that is the problem. Now, we're going to watch here in a moment a little 30-second commercial. This is a commercial that probably many of you have seen on TV recently. It's the sale of a product. As we watch this commercial, I want you to watch. It only takes 30 seconds. And we added subtitles to the commercial so that if you can't hear the words well, you can read the subtitles. But as we travel through this commercial, see if you can notice what is wrong in this commercial. Let's take a look.
Hey, Portal answer.
Oh, hey, baby.
Hey.
Happy holidays.
Aw, you having an ugly sweater party?
What?
Oh, no.
Are you throwing a bird cookie party?
No, I think she's having a messy kitchen party.
Very funny, you guys. Deal 'em, Frank.
Did you notice what is wrong in that commercial? Now, I'm not talking about the device called the Portal, because that seems like a really great device. They used to talk about those things when I was a little boy, how futuristic things would be, that you actually be able one day to see someone in their home and have a conversation with them. So the device itself seems great. But what's wrong in that commercial? Now, it seems to be a conversation between a daughter and her parents. Now, conversations are typically a very healthy thing. They're a healthy thing to do. But the health of a conversation is greatly jeopardized when one very toxic item enters the conversation itself, and the toxic item is this. It's the jab, AKA also known as the zinger. That's what went wrong in that conversation. That's what went wrong in that commercial. The jab, the zinger. Now what's a jab? You know what a jab is. You might have been in your life the recipient of many jabs. You know what a jab is? Those little unnecessary mean comments that someone just throws out at you. They hurt, they cut. Psychologists that study marriages and psychologists that study the dissolving of marriages, and they study those marriages that are currently on life support, they draw a very interesting conclusion. Now, there's a lot of reasons why marriages end, but they have discovered a consistent reason on what starts the corrosion of a marriage, and it is the jab. When one spouse always throws a little zinger, a little jab at the other spouse, a little unnecessary mean comment, one after the other. And finally, the one spouse might say to the other, "That hurt." And what's the typical response? "Oh, I was only kidding. Can't even take a joke anymore." But those aren't jokes. Those little jabs, those little zingers, those little unnecessary mean comments, they are revelation of the way you feel. They're not a joke. You might disguise that joke as something that's humorous, but it's a jab. And then that day will come when one spouse will say to the other spouse, "You know, the love I had for you, you chipped it away. You always had these negative comments. You just kept chipping and chipping and corroding and corroding. And I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I'm getting nothing out of this marriage. I'm only being put down rather than levitated. I don't want it anymore." It's the jab. Now, I've been with many people when their cell phone goes off, and sometimes I'll hear something very interesting that they say. Maybe I do this, but it's always easier to see what someone else does rather than what you do. So this is what I have observed every so often. Someone's cell phone will go off, and they'll pick it up and, look at it, and they will say, as they see who's calling them, "I'm not going to answer it. I don't need it right now. I can't be bothered with this right now." What does that mean? What that really means is the person who is calling me is either going to offer a jab, they're going to put me down, they're going to lower me rather than levitate me, or they're going to offer me some drama. I just don't want to be bothered with it right now. I am exhausted. I can't deal with it. Now, in a moment, we're going to watch that conversation again. But unfortunately, what happens is this. The daughter throws out a zinger, ugly sweater. And once she throws out that jab, the dad decides to give a counter jab, and the mother gives a counter jab. That's corrosive. That is extremely destructive. Now, the commercial on TV only lasts 30 seconds. Commercials are expensive, so they're trying to get in what that product does. But if that conversation continued between daughter and parent, something tells me they both would have shut off the portal. Because I don't need it. I don't want it. I'm never going to turn that on again. I'm never going to talk to my parents again using the portal because it's just one jab after another. I don't want to be bothered. Now, before we watch this commercial, just think, what would have happened if the daughter said to her parents, "Boy, Mom and Dad, those are really festive sweaters. You look so nice in those sweaters." That's a compliment, isn't it? And they would have countered with a compliment. They probably would have said something like, "What a great mom you are. Despite all the busyness of the Christmas season, there you are making cookies for your kids. Do they know how lucky they are to have you as a mom?" Wouldn't that have been nice? That conversation would have continued. But it's the jab. It's the jab that is destructive, and the jab ruins relationships. Let's watch that commercial again.
Hey, portal answer.
Oh, hey, baby.
Hey,
Happy holidays.
Aw, you having an ugly sweater party?
What?
Oh, no.
Are you throwing a bird cookie party?
No, I think she's having a messy kitchen party.
Very funny, you guys. Deal 'em, Frank.
You can almost, the second time, feel the hurt. You can almost, the second time, feel the little anger in Mom and Dad as they throw out their counter zinger. A burnt cookie party. A messy kitchen party. Those hurt. If you're baking cookies in your house, you sometimes mess up the whole kitchen, but that's a beautiful thing to do. When I make spaghetti sauce over the rectory, I make a couple gallons at a time, and I start with tomatoes and cut the skin off the tomato. Anyone that would walk in that kitchen when I'm making sauce, they might say a jab, and it would hurt. But you do your cooking, you make your cookies, and then you clean up afterward. But you do all those things out of what? Out of love. Why would you throw a jab when someone I love is doing something nice? Those jabs are and were destructive. They didn't do anything for that relationship between that mother and her parents. I'm absolutely certain she said to herself, "That's it. I was happy making cookies in my kitchen, and then we used this device called the portal. Jab, jab, zinger, zinger. Never going to use it again. Why would I want to? Why do I need to be put down?" You know, this Advent season, as we prepare for Christmas, if you want to strengthen relationships that you have with someone, if you want to put back a broken relationship that you have with someone, you have to analyze and examine yourself. Are you the kind of person that uses jabs, that throws out zingers to your family and to your friends? Maybe that's why, despite we have so many different forms of communication that should be bringing people together, it's pulling people apart. Because it's not the device we use to communicate that's destructive. What is destructive is the type of communication we have that destroys. Stop the jab. Stop throwing the zingers. They don't do any good at all. They're very, very destructive, extremely toxic. I'm going to leave you with this, and I'm probably going to wind up saying it twice because I think it makes a lot of sense. Gandhi, the political leader of India who died in 1948, once said this. He said a lot of powerful things. He just had this incredible insight in how to develop human personal relationships. But he once said this: if you change your words, you change your world. And that is true. If you are dealing with any strained relationships right now, analyze the strain of that relationship. You might discover the strain is something you are capable of eliminating. Because what might have separated you from another family member isn't a lack of love, but it's the allowance of the jab into the conversation that destroys, and it's corrosive, it's toxic. Get rid of it. Gandhi was right. If you change your words, you change your world.